Well, hey there, Burned In Teachers. Welcome to episode 187 of the Burned In Teacher podcast. Today, we are having our second meeting of the Hacking Teacher Burnout Summer Book Study Series, and we're going to dive into hack number 1, begin where you are. We're going to reflect today on what brought you to where you are right now. Whether you're still in school for your last couple of weeks, you've been out for a couple of weeks, or you are finishing your last day of school yesterday or next week, we are here for it. We're here for you, and let's get started. Your choice to begin and continue working in education should not be taken lightly. But how do you manage it all while keeping that fire burning bright so you can show up in your classroom and in life as your best self every day? That's what this show is all about. Welcome to the Burned In Teacher podcast. I'm Amber Harper, classroom teacher, author of Hacking Teacher Burnout, and with more and more teachers quitting the profession or accepting #teacher misery as their forever reality, I step in as your teacher burnout coach to help you take your next best steps to creating a happier and more fulfilled career and life. Now, let's take one more step forward and out of burnout together so we can burn on. Shall we? Let's go. I will never forget this day. I don't remember exactly what day it was, but you know what day I'm talking about. The day that I went home when the kids went to recess. It was around 1 o'clock p.m. And I was just going to quickly let the dog out, get back in the car, and go back to school and finish the day, just like I had done days and days and days previous. But this day was different. This day, my dog decided to crap in his kennel and roll in it and sit in it. And to say that I was frustrated with the situation is an understatement. If you've heard this story before, then you know that this was my rock bottom moment. You know that I was hysterical. You know that I couldn't stop crying. And when I went back to school that day and I opened the doors to teach my third graders for another hour and a half, my team looked at me and I was in such an emotional state that they thought my husband had died. And imagine their underwhelm whenever I told them that Oliver pooped in his kennel, and that is why I could barely stand. This was my rock bottom. This is what I call my Oliver moment. And whether or not you've had that moment happen to you before, and a lot of teachers that I work with have, and I hope that you never do if you haven't. This was where I truly believe Burned In Teacher was born. And this is why I do what I do. Because what had happened in the days, in the months, in the years leading up to this rock bottom Oliver moment of mine is I was surviving. I was surviving my career. I was surviving until the weekend. I was surviving until breaks. I don't even know why. I don't know why I was fighting so hard to continue waking up and feeling the same way about my career in education and my life in general every single day. And that's what we're going to talk about today, and that's what we're going to reflect on today and begin where you are, because when I had that breakdown, that very public, very embarrassing, very emotional, very raw breakdown in front of my teacher friends, I had a stark realization that something big had to change. And it wasn't any of the things that I was saying needed to change in order for me to be happier. It was me. I had to change. I had so many things to change, though, that I didn't know where to start. But this is honestly something that I now look back on and I'm so grateful for, because without that rock bottom moment, I wouldn't be here. I would not be sitting behind the mic, coaching you, walking you through this book. I mean, my God, in 2014, if you would have told me that I was going to write a book about surviving burnout and coaching teachers and sharing everything that I've learned, I would have laughed at you. I probably would have cried. So if you felt these feelings, if you've been there, you're not crazy. I felt crazy in that moment, but you're not crazy. You just have to begin where you are. And that's what we're going to do today. You see, when I was at my rock bottom moment, and I was there for a long time, it just took that straw that broke the camel's back, right? I was so burned out. I had lost sight of who I wanted to serve. I lost sight of how much I loved teaching. I lost sight of my values. I lost who I was. And there are so many times where I've asked teachers what they wanted and they don't even know. If someone were to ask you right now, what do you want? What would you say? Be honest. What would you say? And that's why in the What You Can Do Tomorrow section, I give you several things that you can choose to do to help you to decide what your next best step is. So whether you choose to list out people who could become your quote unquote burnout buddies, people who could go on this journey with you. You could jump into the Facebook group and ask some people to be a burnout buddy with you throughout the rest of this book studies series. Or maybe you really want to do a deep dive into your core values. There are like 5 or 6 different options here for you to dive into. So what would you choose? What would you want to do? So, and I apologize if you can hear the vacuum in the back. I'm recording this from my classroom, and our amazing custodian just started vacuuming outside my door. So what do you want? I want you to dream about that in the book study guide. What do you want? And you don't have to tell anybody, but this is the beginning of thinking about how you got here and, again, what you want going forward. You got to start to create a vision for yourself. So starting from where you are, reflecting on where you've been and what is causing us to decide that we have had enough of this burned out life is such an important step. And sometimes it takes that rock bottom moment and sometimes it doesn't. But in this chapter, we address some of the negative things that you've been saying that are keeping you stuck in this burnout cycle and that could be causing you to either keep feeling worse or keeping you stuck in that rock bottom moment. I challenge you in this chapter to replace those negative thoughts and words with some critical questions that I really, truly want you to ask yourself. And here's what I want to encourage you to do as soon as possible. In that What You Can Do Tomorrow section of this chapter, I encourage you to choose 3 out of 5 of those things. I just listed a couple of them. So what are they? And did you get any checked off? Like before this meeting, have you checked any of those off? I encourage you to share what you're doing on social media and tag me at Burned In Teacher, or post an image of what you're doing to begin where you are inside of the Burned In Teacher podcast Facebook group. Go to facebook.com/groups/Burned In Teacher. There is nothing I would love more than cheering you on and having others cheer you on as you take even if it's a slight, small step. Any step forward is a step out of this rock bottom that you may be in yourself. And if you're not and you're feeling good and you want to continue to feel good, then you can identify how you're going to keep going, okay? There is a lot of space for you to get really deep about what you believed caused your burnout based on your burnout type. So use that space, my friends, and use that space inside of the Hacking Teacher Burnout book study guide, because when you use that space to get all of the things that are jumbled up in your head onto paper, seriously, there's nothing like it. And that's what I did not do pre-2014, pre-fall 2014. I saw things in a whole new light when I started to actually write things down. And this is different than making to-do lists. To-do lists are great. I love having an organized priority list. I love planning my weeks ahead. I love that. But that's different than really reflecting on how you're feeling and how you're going to move forward. So I also encourage you in this chapter to decide who you want to either bring on this journey with you, those burnout buddies, as I mentioned, and to think about those people who you go to work for. There is space for you to dive into this section of the book, and to really think deeply about what you do and why you do it every single day. Okay, now hear me out. We are not going to spend the entire book explaining your quote unquote why for teaching. We're going to go so much broader than that. And in this section, we do talk a little bit about whether or not you are serving who you feel you want to be serving. So check out page 41 and 42 for a deep dive into this concept, okay? Hey, real quick, I'm jumping in here to let you know that if you're enjoying this summer book study series of Hacking Teacher Burnout, then you would be a perfect fit for Burned In Teacher University. And since you've dedicated yourself to this summer book club, I want to say thank you. So go to burnedinteacher.com/course and enter the code BOOKCLUB, all one word, at checkout for $28 off of forever access to Burned In Teacher University. That's right. You can enroll today, right now, for $99. This online course is more than Hacking Teacher Burnout in course form. In my signature course, you'll find 8 modules of video lessons and bonus resources where I'll guide you through my burned in process to help you move through the 5 stages of burnout. Each module includes self-paced video lessons incorporating a mindset focus and a time and energy focus to set you up for success as you implement the material. And that is something you won't find in the book. So go to burnedinteacher.com/course and enter code BOOKCLUB, all one word, at checkout to get your money back for the $28 you've already spent. And I can't wait to see you inside the course that has changed my life and so many others from around the world. Now, back to the book study series. And in the overcoming pushback section, I am going to pull out a small snippet to read to you because I know there are some of you listening who either haven't gotten the book yet or who have the book, but you're like, I'm not going to be able to finish this. I never have time to do things for myself. And I want you to know that I see you. So on page 43, I'm going to read you this small section from the overcoming pushback. And I love these sections of each of the hacks because it really does address the pushback that we either get from other people or that we even get from ourselves. And this one is some pushback you might get from yourself as you're starting to move forward, okay? There is so much to do. I don't have time to do any of this. That's what you might be saying about these little challenges that I have inside the book, okay? So here's what you need to know. As you'll learn in Hack 2, what you choose to believe will be your reality. So if you choose to believe that you aren't worthy of taking the time to move through these steps and put them into action, then that will be your truth. However, I encourage you to believe that you are capable and you are worthy of the time it will take to reflect, act upon, and grow because of this book. It will take time. But the momentum you will build by taking small steps each day will be worth your effort. I promise. So if it's been a challenge for you to build a habit, and we're going to talk about habits here in a couple weeks. If it's been a challenge for you to build the habit of reading maybe a page a day or 2 pages a day, or you want to sit down and knock out the whole, around 20 pages per chapter, stop telling yourself the story that you can't, because typically what I can't means is I won't, and I'm getting ahead of myself, but all of these things run together. So take this time, if you haven't already, to read chapter 1, dive in deep, do the reflection in the Hacking Teacher Burnout book study guide. It is worth the time to write it down. I promise you. I know there are some of you out there that are like, I'm not writing this down. Do it. Do it. I did, and I hate writing. It's not fun. And I wrote a whole book, okay? If I can do it, you can too. And it's worth it because you're going to see things in a new light, okay? So that's all for this book club meeting. Join us next week when we dive into hack number 2, Understand Your Teacher Brand. It is one of my top 3 favorite chapters. I love it so much, and it's also the favorite of a lot of people who read this book. So go read pages 49 through 75. Let us know what's resonating with you or questions you might have in the Facebook group, or connect with me on Instagram at Burned In Teacher. I cannot wait for our next meeting. See you then. Burn on. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. To keep this conversation going, connect with me on Instagram at Burned In Teacher. I'm always ready and willing to have a conversation with you about your burnout and ways I can help you to move through it. If you're looking for support in growing through your burnout in ways you never thought possible, check out my online course, Burned In Teacher University, at burnedinteacher.com/course. I'll see you in the next episode. Burn on.